Hey everybody, it's Lon Seidman. We're taking a look today at a couple of docks for your iPad Pro. They're from two different companies, but they look almost the same. One is from a company called Choetech, and the other is from a company called Hyperdrive. And the way these work is you just plug them into the side of your iPad on its USB-C port here. And when you connect it up, you get a bunch of ports that your iPad normally doesn't have, including an HDMI output, a USB output, a USB Type-C connector for power delivery, and you get a headphone jack, which of course is lacking on your iPad. And we're going to take a closer look at both of these here in just a second. Now, I do want to let you know, in the interest of full disclosure, that one of these came in free of charge from the manufacturer, the Choetech one here. They all look the same. I get very confused. The other one here from Hyperdrive came in free of charge through the Amazon Vine program. However, all the opinions you're about to hear are my own. Nobody is paying for this review, nor is anyone reviewing or approving what you're about to see before it was uploaded. So let's get into it now and see what these two docks are all about. The big difference physically is that the Hyperdrive has these little clips here to better secure it against your iPad Pro. So when you plug this in, what will happen here is these clips will sit just over the iPad display in the bezel area. And there's also two more clips on the bottom that will also attach there. And you can see, if I can get my case off here, that they basically slip under the case and just give you a little bit more stability so that you don't actually snap your iPad connector off if you grab it the wrong way. It's giving you a little bit of prevention against that sort of thing. By comparison, the Choetech one here just kind of sits there, which could, again, create some issues if you grab it here and snap something off or weaken the connector. So that's the only real physical difference. This one may give you a little bit more peace of mind, but if you're careful, this one should work just as fine here plugged into the side of the iPad. What's interesting, though, is that because this one from Hyperdrive has these clips on it, you can't easily plug it into something else, because these are really just standard USB-C docks that should work, and they have, I've tested it, they do work, with just about any USB-C port on just about any computer. And this one won't plug into something if it isn't as thin as these guides are going to require. So the Choetech one here, you could pop into a Surface Go tablet, into a Mac or whatever, and you'll get use of all these ports, which again, you can't get on the other one due to those plastic tabs being in the way. The other difference is that there's a huge price disparity between these two. So this one from Hyperdrive is almost twice as much cost-wise as the Choetech one is. And originally I thought, well, maybe it's because the ports might be slightly different. So you can see here the Hyperdrive on the top has a blue USB 3 connector, whereas the Choetech just has a USB 2 connector. But a little bit earlier, I plugged in a USB Ethernet adapter that can go up to a gigabit, and it performed identically on both of these, basically running at essentially USB 2.0 speeds. So although Hyperdrive is advertising this port as USB 3, in my testing, it's performing exactly the same as the USB 2 port on the device below it. So I saw no speed difference between these two. And therefore, my advice would be, if you don't mind the risk here of not having these clips on board, the Choetech one I think is the better buy, just because it costs less and works with more devices, because it can be easily plugged into something other than an iPad if you wanted to use it with something else. Let's take a look now and see how the HDMI and the USB ports work on these, and then we'll wrap things up. So we'll begin here with the Choetech attached, and we'll hook up the HDMI connector here, and I'll get my iPad powered up once more. And now that that's gone in there, what we should see now is the device coming to life here on screen. There we go, and we've got my iPad here functioning. As you can see, HDMI is working just fine. I've got a little USB stick here I can plug into that USB port. Again, we tested out Ethernet a little bit earlier. What I'll do here is load up the Apple Files app, which will allow us to browse the contents of that drive there, and it looks like all is good. It looks like I have some movie files I could even play back on here, so let's try that. Again, it's coming off of that drive there, no problem. That's good, so that works just fine. And if I connect that power connector up, you will see the iPad's charger there in the upper right-hand corner work fine, and now we've got power going in. And a little bit earlier I tested the audio output on both of these. It sounds okay. It doesn't sound as good as what you would get out of a nice pair of Bluetooth headphones, for example. The audio circuitry on these is never spectacular, but it's good enough. If you wanted some headphones to plug in in a pinch here, you could get that going here without too many issues. Now what's interesting is that the USB-C port on both is mostly for power delivery, but if you plug in a USB-C data device, you can actually get data going through that USB-C port and essentially have two USB ports, provided you're not trying to charge the device at the same time. Now in between takes here, I attached the other one just to see how it performs on the side of my iPad. And my USB stick here is one of these cool SanDisk ones that can work as a USB-A and as a USB-C. So if I plug it in here, what we'll see on screen when we do that is that memory stick popping up here, as you can see, as a USB drive, and I can go ahead and start looking at photos and other things on here just like I was when it was directly plugged into that USB port. I did try to hook up some devices that offer USB power delivery end ports, and those didn't work. So it's either power or data, but not both. So of the two, I definitely prefer the Choetech device. It is a lot less expensive than the Hyperdrive version is here. And I initially thought that the Hyperdrive cost more because its USB port was faster, but in my testing, it performed identically to the lower priced Choetech here that presumably only has a USB 2.0 port. So although this looks like a USB 3 port, it is performing at USB 2 speeds, and again, doesn't really offer any value proposition over the lower cost yet identical looking device. That leaves the big difference here, which is these clips, and this can provide a little more stability on the Hyperdrive here when it's plugged into the iPad Pro, again, just because it prevents that connector from getting stressed too much. But both of these come out pretty easily, so it's easy just to knock them off to the side here and have them pop off. So the clips are good for this kind of movement, but something like this is still going to knock it out of that port pretty easily. And then of course you can't plug this thing in to anything else because those clips are going to get in the way, whereas the Choetech here will plug into just about anything that's got a USB-C port and give you the same functionality. So for functionality, for utility, and for value, I think the Choetech here is the better of these two iPad Pro docks, and that is going to do it for this one. Until next time, this is Lon Seidman. Thanks for watching.
This channel is brought to you by the Lon.TV supporters, including gold-level supporters, the Four Guys with Quarters podcast, Tom Albrecht, Rick Vestudo, Chris Allegretta, and Kalyan Kumar. If you want to help the channel, you can by contributing as little as $1 a month. Head over to lon.tv/support to learn more. And don't forget to subscribe. Visit lon.tv/s.